Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everybody? It's Jeranism, back with another video for you today. Who do you trust? Do you trust scientists? The ones who tell us the age of the Earth? 4.54 billion years, right? It's a fact.
How would you prove to all these young people here 100% absolute proof that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old?
That's quite difficult. Over 4 billion we can do.
How do you do? Okay, over 4 billion, how do you do?
Using potassium argon, strontium, rubidium, and the process of geology.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Well, that sounds convincing. But you could be wrong, right? At least science admits that much.
Do you know how many of the daughter elements were there to start with? Do you know for sure the rates of change haven't stayed?
We do our best to know as closely as possible.
But it's possible those things could be different, right?
No.
It's not?
No.
It's not possible? Well, then you must have some irrefutable ironclad evidence, I assume.
As you know, all life is built on DNA. And DNA is an information system and a language system. So do you have any evidence that matter produces a language system, matter produces information? I mean, there are billions, trillions of bits of information in living systems. Can you testify to how information arose by natural processes?
Here we are.
That's it? That's your evidence?
Here we are. That's evidence that life arose from natural processes? Seems more like a guess or a wish.
I think
Not your belief. How can you prove life arose by natural processes? How do you prove that?
We haven't proven it.
Well, then that's a belief.
Yes, but
Bill, do you not understand beliefs? I may not agree with Ken Ham either, but at least he admits that he starts with a belief and builds his worldview around it. You, on the other hand, pretend that you're starting with evidence.
science changes. That's the fundamental thing, everybody. Science changes.
So your views you have today could be wrong?
Absolutely.
Because, as the Bible says, it's so evident that there's God. I mean, you look at DNA, a language system, an information system. We never see evidence that came about by natural processes.
Well, I claim we do, so we disagree.
Can you give me an example?
Example of what?
He said we never see a language or information system arise from natural processes. You said, well, I claim we do. Then he said, can you give me an example? You said, an example of what?
We never see evidence that came about by natural processes.
Well, I claim we do, so we disagree.
Can you give me an example?
Example of what?
Seems like science wants to just make claims without backing it up with evidence. Bill Nye then tells these people that we could be descendants from Martians.
Which is more crazy, though.
But you're saying we're descendants of Martians, and that's not crazy?
I say it is not crazy. It's extraordinary, but not crazy.
Okay,
and we have a process by which we can prove that. That's what's so exciting.
Prove that we're Bill, I want you to do that for all these young people. Prove that we're descendants from Martians.
I can't prove that right now. I don't know where you were the last minute and a half.
I thought you said we could.
We want to send spacecraft there.
Okay.
We have a process by which we can make this discovery.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting lost here. It's a process to help us make better guesses, so the age of the Earth is just wild speculation. You admit, then, that you might be wrong.
Yeah, but you can have multiple tree rings in a year, correct?
But be that as it may.
So then your interpretation of the age could be incorrect, correct?
No, absolutely not.
So your interpretation is 100% correct?
My interpretation with respect to the age of the Earth in this regard is absolutely correct.
No, we're asking
and
about
furthermore, Mr. Ham, your interpretation is absolutely wrong.
Must be great to be a man of science, or a fanboy. When you make claims, you claim fact. When asked for evidence, you say we have it. When asked if you could be wrong, you say no, but that the great thing about science is that it always changes. So now don't get me wrong, Ken Ham certainly isn't helping much either. Both science and religion are a problem. They indoctrinate kids into a world of beliefs, and I'd rather not believe in God at all if my other option is Ken Ham's first blood animal killer, sacrifice demanding, jealous, and wrathful God.
Okay, I'll let you say that. You know what, young people, and everyone here, God gave clothes because of sin. The fact that we're wearing clothes is a reminder that God killed animals and clothed Adam and Eve, the first blood sacrifices, a covering for their sin, pointing towards the fact that someday one would come to die for our sin, die for your sin, Bill, and die for mine, be raised from the dead, and offer a free gift of salvation, and he offers it to you too.
Thank you.
Ken, can you maybe understand why Bill Nye might be a little standoffish about the God you just described? I mean, why don't you just read Psalms 137, 8 through 9? O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, happy is the one who repays you, as you have served us. Happy is the one who takes and dashes your little ones against the rocks. Or Leviticus 26, if in spite of this you still do not listen to me, but continue to be hostile towards me, then in my anger I will be hostile towards you, and I myself will punish you for your sins 7 times over. You will eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters. I will destroy your high places, cut down your incense altars, and pile your dead bodies on the lifeless forms of your idols, and I will abhor you. I will turn your cities into ruins and lay waste your sanctuaries, and I will take no delight in the pleasing aroma of your offerings. I will lay waste the land so that your enemies who live there will be appalled. I will scatter you among the nations and will draw out my sword and pursue you. Your land will be laid waste, and your cities will lie in ruins. And there is a happy medium, folks, and it's found when you trust yourself. You trust what's inside you. Now, there is something called the scientific method that, when used correctly, can help us find the truth. Bill knows all about the scientific method, right?
How do you handle a flat earther?
Oh, you guys, there's not that many flat earthers.
Yeah, I don't think that.
It's not a big thing. And that's not a real thing.
I don't think it's real. I think these are people who are desperately in need of attention.
In medieval texts, you find references to round earths. There hasn't been a real flat earth person in a long time. And you guys, we have pictures from space if you're not happy with that. Go on a cruise. You get over the horizon, you can't see land anymore. Why is that? Just try it yourself. Don't take my word for it.
There you go.
Next time there's a lunar eclipse, look for the Earth's shadow on the moon.
Wait, what was that again, Bill?
There you go.
Next time there's a lunar eclipse, look for the Earth's shadow on the moon.
Gotcha. All right. Flat Earth, it's not a real thing. Hasn't been a real flat Earth person in a long time.
Roughly, critical thinking involves at least 3 things. You have to start with a claim. Mm-hmm. The claim has to have a way that it could be shown to be false. In the case of if I say the Earth is round, and you say the Earth isn't round, we have to agree on a method by which we could show that the Earth is not round. But in that one example, every time you try to do that, you find out the Earth really is round. And then you have to respect authority. You have to agree on somebody that's an authority.
Wait, what? I thought the scientific method was to ask a question, do background research, conduct a hypothesis, then test it, then analyze your data, and then report your results. Am I missing something? Oh, I never saw those 2 steps. Oh, okay, go to an authority, seek out people who say they know, and put your trust in them, and then ridicule, laugh at anyone who thinks outside the box, say that they don't exist. If they bring facts, ridicule them, they're idiots. Makes sense. No chance to be deceived there.
So we got to work together in a partnership to show that there's a way to know that the Earth is getting warmer because of humans, and then we can all work together to resolve it. What do you say? Come on, everybody. It'll be fun.
How could you deny an appeal such as that? Amazing. All right.
Yeah, how could you even question that? Considering the timeline shown on the screen is the entire Earth history according to science. So 4.54 billion years ago, and then you see that little red circle there on the far right. That's just taking that 0.14 billion years ago. So let's draw that out into a much larger timeline. And now we'll see that that's just 140 million years ago till the present. So let's again take that final little niche there, that little green line, which is only 2 million years. Let's bring that down one more step. So now we're just looking at the last 2 million years. And let's look at the little blue section there, and let's zoom in on that final blue section, which is only 31,000 years. And let's look at that timeline and realize that little bit at the end again is just 650 years, which is probably at the most the longest they've been doing climate studies, which is actually probably 100 or 200 years. But then you want us to believe that humans, which have only been around a few thousand years, have affected the climate, and you know this by looking back at the 4.54 billion year history of the Earth. Bullshit!
A lot of you guys are kind of giving us the same questions. So to Chris and Zachary and Jared and Burton and Jim and Jai and Christian and Tina and Dakota, we're not going to get to you guys, but just wanted to say hi. Thank
you.
And we love you and thank you.
I wonder what all those same questions might be. Could it be, how in the world can anyone accept a model where 95% of the known universe has never been observed? Could it be that? Could it be, why does anybody accept the globe model when there's so much nonsense involved with it? They'll find one thing that they think debunks the flat earth and go off on it for 3 weeks. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, if you can't just look around, if you can't just see the truth, then you need to get your head straight. The truth's right in front of you. You need to stop believing these charlatans. Or else, I saw the wee moon. And I made a wee observation. With me own camera. With me own eyes. With me own experiment. With we own experiment. We did a wee experiment with my wee own eyes. And hey guys, it just proved it. My wee observation, my wee experiment. With me own camera. It disproved the flat earth. The flat earth disproved it, guys. Guys, it disproved it. I disproved it in my own eyes, my wee experiment. I did it myself. I observed it myself. With my own camera. With me own eyes. Now, granted, I don't do that great of impressions, but I'm pretty sure you got that one. Also said by, this wee experimenter who sets traps for his subs. I trap him, guys. I trap him. I put it out there. I try and corner him. I try and trap him. I disproved flat earth. I swear, I disproved it, guys. With my own observations, my wee eyes. With my wee camera. It's just a wee observation, so all you gotta do is go out there. See the moon upside down? It can't work, guys. It can't work on a flat earth. That's the facts, guys. This is the real life. This is the globe earth. It works perfectly. You just gotta wee observe it. With a wee camera and your wee eye. And a wee observation. He follows that up by saying, whatever they say, we just turn it around on them. Just flip it back on them. Put it right back to them. Like Jaron, he says, you don't have to watch my videos. Why do you watch them if you don't like them? Why say to him, why are you watching NASA's videos? It's the same thing. Guys, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing, guys. Time out. I don't remember taking anybody's tax money and lying to their face and doing space ballet in a pool and calling it a spacewalk. If I do that, everybody has every right to just trash me. All you want. In fact, you have that right anyway. I would never stop you from doing that. It has nothing to do with the fact that I say, if you don't like my videos, you don't have to watch them. So you can go ahead and flip it on me. Go ahead. I don't mind. You can bring your wee observations and your wee camera and your wee eye and your real eyes that we've been talking about the upside down moon for about 2 years now. Just with our wee observations, our wee eyes, and our wee videos that we put up a year ago. So it comes down to our observations. And do they match what we're being told? Because does the globe work? Well, sure. People can travel, commerce works, planes fly, boats sail. But does that mean it's true? Well, just remember to include the endless space around you, the vacuum of space, and the closest star at 25 trillion miles away. To get there in a year, if you were traveling non-stop, you need to be going 2.8 billion miles per hour, which is 4 times faster than the speed of light, but who's counting? Yet go outside, and it's right there. So you can believe what you want. But if you're being lied to, wouldn't you want to know? So let's start to look at some observations and see if we can start to see things a little differently. Here we're looking at some car lights on the freeway, and if you notice, the further the light, the brighter. So we'll have a few more examples coming, but first, a reminder that you need to keep your eyes open. Don't fall asleep to the world around you, because that's exactly what they want. They want you rushing around while you believe that the Earth is spinning. Take a look at this beauty right here, and remember that you think the Earth is spinning. Spinning and flying 2.2 million miles per hour. That when you see a sunset, it's because you're falling with the Earth backward, away from the sun. See, people don't realize the concessions we must give to believe in the globe. As the sun moves away from us, it gets slower. Anyone can check this. Globers go around claiming their perfect system, which is by no means perfect. If it were perfect, we'd have 12-hour days at the equinox, which we don't. And you'll hear that the sun moves 15 degrees per hour along its path throughout the day. Yet at sunrise and sunset, it moves slower, about 15 degrees in 65 minutes. For those of us that are awake and interested in truth, we know why. And so get this. As sure as fanboys are about their science, their physics, and their facts, they just ignore or don't understand the many problems with their system. On a recent Globebusters, John, Bob, and I were discussing the madness of Saturn, its rings, and its 62 moons. With 2 moons in the rings, and with Janus and Epimetheus, who pass so close that they periodically exchange orbits, many of the moons orbit in the opposite direction, and 16 of those moons are tidally locked. So Bob was just saying that we need a supercomputer to even calculate the motions of those moons. Well, let's see how Red's Rhetoric and friends responded to that comment.
It would be continuously changing. I mean, it would take a fleet of supercomputers to actually, figure that out. It just becomes, utterly
I could do it right now.
Now,
Yeah, 3-body diagram is not going to be that complicated.
Oh, so Red said he can do it right now. So a 62 body problem, I'm assuming would be pretty tough, considering, well, maybe Red doesn't know this because, well, he probably wouldn't have said he could do it right now. No one has ever solved a 69 body problem. Nope. Not even a 39 body problem. Nope. Not a 29 body problem. Or even a 19 body problem. Or a 10 body problem. Or an 8 body problem. Nobody's ever done a 6 body problem or a 5 body problem. 4? Nope. Okay, 3. Alright, a 3 body problem at least, right? Just like the Earth, Sun, and Moon system. They can solve for that, right? Survey says, with just 3 bodies, there are 2 forces acting on each, and each exerting forces on the other 2. So that's a 9-coordinate system, and in fact, the problem has a non-analytical solution, meaning it can be solved by approximation only. They can pretend that the force is constant, which it isn't, and they can take a small time period and approximate the solution, but if you're talking about 3 bodies and exactly solving for the motions of those bodies using the inverse square force of gravitational and electrical attraction, it is impossible. The problem with the 3-body problem is that it can't be done. Well, except in a very small set of goofy scenarios, like if you had 3 identical bodies with 3 identical orbits. But when it comes to 3 unique bodies, the exact behavior can't even be written down. Computers can simulate or approximate, but that's it. In fact, look it up and you'll see that when you have more than 2 bodies, you can just abandon the idea that there are any other bodies. So let's see Red solve for a 3-body problem first, and then he can jump and show us 62. Alright, let's get back to our observations. Just a quick reminder why I feel the need to question NASA and JAXA and SpaceX. Remember that NASA says this Gemini 4 footage is real. I've sped it up and I'm showing it to everyone here. Please keep an eye on the Earth. I will play the video twice, so watch it for the next 20 seconds. Keep an eye on the Earth. So, if you've ever wondered why it is that so many people have turned their back on science, well, it's becoming obvious. I mean, look at that footage again, And remember, science says it's legit. Science says men have walked on the moon. Science says there's a remote control robot on Mars that was supposed to last 2 years, but it just so happens it's still going today. Wow. And the proof that that robot is on Mars? Well, there is none. You just gotta take their word for it. But they did see a slight upward kick in the Doppler residuals. And I'd kind of like to deliver an upward kick to the Doppler residuals myself. Here we have a man that's running away from us. So what is happening because of him getting further and further from the camera? What is happening? Well, clearly he's getting smaller. Let's look at people walking away on this walkway. Obviously, things get smaller as they go off into the distance. So, do you put your trust in scientists because they're all about testable, repeatable, and empirical facts, right? Because this shouldn't even be questioned, that the further something is away from you, the smaller it will appear. Have someone drive a car away from where you're standing and watch as it goes away, and the car will get smaller and smaller. We know that, especially when you're talking about things on the ground. So there can be nobody who doesn't at least understand this fact, right?
Go to a seashore and figure out why you can't, if you live on the East Coast, figure out why you can't see Spain from the East Coast of North America.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. This is a joke, right? Jeez. And who are you? And why are you in my house?
You look right over there. You're on candid camera.
Good one. All right. I knew something was up. Okay, so it all makes sense now. So, man, you guys got me good. I knew that there's no way he could be a scientist. I just knew that. So, I mean, is everything, the moon landing, evolution, all of it, the ball Earth, it's all an elaborate setup? Sir? Sir?
Who are you talking to?
Where'd that guy go?
What guy? Who?
The guy from Candid Camera.
Babe, you've been by yourself the whole time.
No. You mean it's all real? Like Bill Nye really is that dumb?
Yeah.
You mean scientists actually think we went to the moon?
Yeah.
They believe in evolution with zero evidence, no facts?
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Let's get back to the genius scientist.
Just go to the middle of the Mississippi River and look south. Why can't you see the Louisiana? Why can't you see New Orleans? What's the problem there?
I feel.
Well, then climb a tower, or go to the top of a hill or a mountain.
Is this real life?
Yeah, it's Bill
And
Nye.
you'll see a little farther, but you will not see to the other side of the earth, places we know to exist. For example, I've been to London. I can tell you, other people have.
Okay, now.
I've been to
Okay, now.
Vancouver, British Columbia.
And
You cannot see Vancouver, British Columbia from Boise, Idaho, let alone from New York City or Toronto or what have you. Just start there. Then if you'd like, look at pictures from space
Why is this happening?
where you see the Earth as a sphere. Those pictures are not fake.
Is this going to be forever?
Your friends are really serious. Have them get on a boat or a ship and go out at sea, and you'll notice you can't see infinitely far. Furthermore, if you get into it enough, pick up a book about navigation.
I really am sorry, kid, and I hope it's not going to be forever. So let's rewind a little bit. Bill Nye said, from the East Coast of North America, ask yourself why you can't see Spain. All right, so let's look at the stupidity that is the scientific mental paradigm that has not opened his mind as science should. Rather, it closed it. Why would Bill do any investigation? He already knows the truth. The Earth can't possibly be flat because we can't see Spain from the East Coast of North America. Oh boy. All right, let's look at it. All right, and there you see a picture of the map from the East Coast over to Spain, which is 3,616 miles. Should we be able to see across the Atlantic Ocean to Spain? The intelligent scientist says that we would if the Earth was flat. However, if we just look at this one picture here, taken 35 miles from the One World Trade Center. We can see it way in the background there. It's tiny. So what would it look like at 70 miles? Do you think you'd see anything? How about 140 miles? How about 200 miles? How about 500? How about 1,000? How about 2,000? How about 3,616? It's got to be a joke. There's no way that man is that dumb. But, like I said, it's a scientific paradigm mind trap that some people may never escape. Alright, so now we're just going to go through some of the observations that we see in our lives and talk about what we're actually seeing versus what we're taught. First here, somebody may think that what we're seeing is land coming up over the so-called curvature, when clearly those are mountains getting bigger because they're small, because they're off in the distance. This here is a tunnel, which can give people a good understanding of how the sun would work, how the sky works, that at a certain distance, the ceiling meets the floor, and that's what's happening in our daily lives. You can clearly see that it is not a spinning earth that is causing the movement we see in the sun, and that should tell you that you're not spinning. And from there we can observe things and see that the sky works just like this tunnel does. Here we have another tunnel, you can see it working the same. That's the way that the sun would set. Much the same as we see here. Only imagine this tunnel is a little bit longer to where the ceiling actually meets the floor. Picture yourself being in a bedroom as big as the one you're in now, but it being as big as your city. If you had a light racing across the top of the room or the ceiling, once it got not very far away from you, the ceiling would meet the floor, and then if light went further off, it would then barely propagate a little bit of light, and ultimately it would eventually turn where you were at to be completely dark. Now look here, and we're seeing this family at the beach, and just look at the water and the way that it acts, the way that it operates, and then understand that all the water that we see there is below the feet of this family. So why does it appear to rise up? Which would be a better fitting model? Would it be the one in which the earth curves down away from everybody because you're on the top of the ball? Or would it be the flat plane, which the nature of a flat plane would cause anything in front of you to rise to your eye level? Just put this in here just so you can see what you believe in, if you believe in the globe. That this is what's going on opposite your feet right now. And as heavy as this car looks like it's coming, as impossible as it seems, gravity, which is the weakest force that there is, gravity is actually holding the trillions of pounds of ocean water and that heavy vehicle and these roads and everything, holding them to the ground. I mean, look at this. This is clearly not happening in reality. Might happen in mathematical world, might happen in Sphere Town, but it's not happening here for sure. This is not happening on our Earth. And in this picture here, again, it's hard to imagine, but all that water is below the observer's feet. This gentleman in the black trench coat. How is that possible if it looks like it's much higher? Well, there's a reason for that. Rob Skiba just did an awesome video on it. Basically, the moral of the story is water on a ball would not look like that at all. Now, this image I made here is an attempt to show you what we would see if we lived on a ball. So pretend we're sitting down with our feet in these skis, looking out at the horizon and the ocean, and if we stood up, we would see this. That's because if we were on a ball, all areas around us would fall away, when in fact, they do not. The water rising with us to our eye level is a clue of the surface that we stand on. It is a plane. On the website Ask a Mathematician, the question is asked as to what would the horizon look like if we lived on a flat plane. And a physicist answers the question with, There'd definitely still be a horizon if the Earth were flat. It would be in almost exactly the same place and look essentially identical. While the Earth isn't flat, adherents to that theory are correct, and that it's nearly so, and if you're standing on the surface of a round something the size of the Earth, it's difficult to tell the difference. In fact, mathematically you can make the argument that a flat Earth acts the same as an infinitely big Earth. So you see, since they think that the Earth is a ball, they don't question what would it look like if we lived on a ball. Because, well, they think they know it's what we already see. But they're wrong. Rob Skiba just did an excellent video called The Flat Earth Trump Card. I have it linked in the description. Check it out for sure, and you'll see the error that has been sold to the people on this plane. And if you think science is always right, and they have it all figured out, well, the three-body problem earlier is evidence that they don't, and so is Michio Kaku's recent admission about the errors in the current idea of gravity and the universal model, the Copernican model, that's been around for 500 years. He said, "Usually in science, if we're off by a factor of 2 or a factor of 10, we call that horrible. We say something's wrong with the theory, we're off by a factor of 10. However, in cosmology, we're off by a factor of 10 to the 120th. That's a 1 with 120 zeros after it. This is the largest mismatch between theory and experiment in the history of science." Michio Kaku. So, they clearly aren't perfect. In fact, they're not even close. And if you think that science is all about admitting its mistakes and changing their theories, well, then you forget that scientists are men with egos and jobs and positions and fame. I'm sure they'll come right out and tell us that their universal model is completely and totally wrong. So quickly, let me show you the error. On their diagrams and calculations, they always show the eyesight of the observer, like letters C and D, as lines tangent with the Earth, usually with a leaning observer. The correct idea is to observe A and B. The eye line should be perpendicular to the Earth and parallel to the tangent. We look out at the horizon, meaning that the ground always falls away from an observer, no matter where you are on the ball. So, while they tell you that things are obscured by the hump of water, the truth is that there never, ever is a hump. Ever. As seen from the observer B, the Earth falls away from us. It never rises up. Therefore, what we see when we're at the beach is proof that we live on a flat plane and not a sphere in endless space. Let's look at some observations. Alright, so let's use our eyes and actually observe what we see. Because people see a sunset or a sunrise and they don't think about what we're told is going on. So, in this particular case, at this sunset, that would be that the sun is stationary and that the sunset that we're seeing is because we are falling backwards or spinning away from the sun. Really falling backwards so that the sun passes below our feet. Well, we were given eyes to observe. And if you observe what is actually happening during sunrises and sunsets, if you actually think and observe what's going on, well, you can kiss being a globe believer goodbye. Because you can trust your eyes, you can trust your senses, and you can trust yourself, or you can trust men who are off by a factor of 10 to the 120th, a 1 with 120 zeros after it. The sun is going off into the distance. Again, picture yourself in a bedroom and make that bedroom as big as your city. Only the ceiling is the same height as you have it now. So now turn, look to the side, and picture that you're looking off into the distance of that room. And you'll understand that within 100 or 200 yards maybe, the ceiling will eventually meet the floor. So if you had one light that was responsible to lighting that whole entire room, and let's say that the light is on a circular tract that goes all around the room, well, the light would start leading off, and as it got so far from you, it would pass that line that meets the ceiling and the floor. And at that time, while you would still see light, it would be like the light of a sunset. Soon after, it would be dark, or your side of the room would be dark, would be night. You would no longer see the light that was on the track as it has gone too far out of your eyesight. Take a look at what we're seeing here. Beautiful video of a sunset, and if you watch carefully, and I challenge you to please go out and watch this on your own, find somewhere where you can watch the sunset, and you'll see that the sun is going further away. It is not stationary, and you are falling backwards, head over heels basically, to allow the sun to pass below your feet at the horizon line. The sun is going out of your view. It is too far for you to see. Many sunrise and sunset videos you can watch will also show you if you can track the sun after it's gone off, it kind of heads off in the correct direction. It doesn't go straight down, it's going to head off. In this case, since the sun was setting left to right, it's going to continue on its left to right path. You can actually follow that light. So it really comes down to your observations. Do you trust your eyes? Do you trust your senses? We know that nobody on Earth has ever felt any spin. We know that nobody on Earth has ever felt the 2.2 million mile per hour zoom through space that we're doing around the Great Attractor. You know, no one has ever seen a Great Attractor. No one has ever seen a sun that is 1.3 million times as big as the Earth. No one has ever seen that stars are other suns. These things are simply told to you by men who say they're smarter than you. And how do they know they're smarter? Because they did better than you at studying and remembering and memorizing a book. Yet they'll make fun of Christians and other religions because they believe in a book. But they also believe in a book. Just like they'll make fun of Christians, calling them creationists. You guys believe in creation. Oh, what a joke. Time out. What exactly is the Big Bang? I believe it's a moment in time when all that there is was created. So people who believe in science believe in creation. They just say it happened accidentally. That's the difference. That's what makes you smart in this world. Do you believe that everything here is done accidentally? It all created itself for no reason at all. There's no purpose to any of it. All the laws of physics, all the laws of biology, the DNA, the makeup of life that's done through informational systems is all accidental. It has no creator. It has no greater mind. Because really, let's think about it. Who could possibly have a greater mind than scientists who are only off by 10 to the 120th? Doesn't get any better than that. Doesn't get any better than knowing that the Earth is 4.54 billion years old, because you can measure the radioactive decay of elements without ever having any clue as to what those elements were like 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 1 million years ago, 100 million years ago, 1 billion years ago, 2 billion years ago, 3.5 billion years ago. This is really who we should be trusting, guys. Look at that sun right here on the screen. Watch this sun. We are not falling away from the sun. We're not falling backwards, and the sun is passing below our feet. That's a religious belief that somebody wants you to believe pretty damn bad, when your observations tell you exactly what's going on. And I understand, I think that the hard part for people is that they do not comprehend deception, especially on a level that we're seeing right now. I mean, the level of indoctrination that we were all fed in our formative years has been catastrophic. This isn't something that they will ever just admit. This is the foundation on which all of science has been built. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the science has been good, but the lies and the dogmatic foundational axioms of science are the only things that have attributed to the materialism, atheism, and bunk science like evolution and the moon landings to be called actual science and scientific fact. It is disgusting. It's time we take back the truth, because right now we're allowing men to tell us what the truth is, saying that they went through the scientific method, when in fact they rigged the system. They rigged it all. It's time we took it back. Now we go from the good to the bad. Now, after all those sunrises and sunsets we just watched, I ask you to go to watch the ISS live for just an hour. Number one, you'll see only 30 minutes in that hour. The other half the time, you won't see anything because the ISS will be on the dark side of Earth. You know, I guess those satellites that are in the thousands must have better things to do because they can't bounce the signal down to the Earth from the ISS. Look at this crap. They are faking the view from space. I mean, does NASA really deserve $50 million a day of our money? Let's watch Kristen McCulloch here, who was the random teacher that they selected to be on Challenger in 1986, as she goes through a walkthrough for a session from Challenger to school children. She wasn't on Challenger, and this video is quite revealing if you listen close.
Challenger, Houston, we have good Teachers TV. Go ahead with the lesson, Krista.
Okay. Good morning. This is Krista McCulloch, live from the Challenger, and I'm going to be taking you through a field trip. I'm going to start out introducing you to two very important members of the crew. The first one is Commander Scobie, who is sitting to my left, and the second one is Michael Smith. Now, Commander Scobie is going to tell you a little bit about flying the orbiter, and Pilot Smith is going to be telling you a little bit about the Spock, which is the computer that is used on board. Okay, after they talk about that, I'm going to be talking about the seats and how people are seated during takeoff. And I'll be pointing to the two seats, or the positions on the floor. Then I'm going to be going to the aft flight deck and show how it can be flown from the back, pointing to the payload bay windows, the overhead windows, how you can see out, and the mission-specific panels that are going to be behind me. I'm going to be standing right here because Dick's going to be in this seat, and Mike is going to be kind of balanced to his right with the Spock on his lap. He's going to pull the Spock out, and he's going to be over here. Okay, at that point, Mike's going to move out of the way, and I'm going to be going downstairs. Okay?
Okay, you ready to come down?
All right, now when I go downstairs, that's going to move.
I'm going to switch the cameras.
Okay, and I'm going to pick up the handheld mic down here. Now, the camera that is right over here should pick me up coming down. We're going to talk about the bathroom first? Is that what we decided? Oh, the handheld mic. Okay. Yeah, I wish I had my...
Is Ron going to be...
Ron's going to be standing right here. Okay? All right. So... Can I just talk and... Okay. Once I get down to the mid-deck, I'll be talking about the WCS. Can you see the WCS?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So the first part, after I push the privacy curtain away, I'm going to be standing over here by the WCS, talking to that camera, explaining how this is configured, talking about the towels and the washcloth. And I'll be talking about the seat. The other person is going to be sitting right in front of the WCS for takeoff and re-entry. And then I'll talk about the sleep bag. Now, at this point, as I'm talking about the sleep bag, hopefully this camera is going to be ready. Okay, and that's why we put the sleep bag in, because we didn't know whether they'd have enough time if all I talked about was the WCS. So we thought I could talk about the sleep restraint and maybe, mention the hatch, but then turn to Ron at the galley, and he would be taking a container out, and I'd be explaining that this is how we rehydrate the food, and he will do the container for me since I have the handheld mic.
He'll do it right.
Okay. Okay, yeah, showing how the drink container works, and then he'll put that back on. Okay, at that point, he's going to, well, I think we left it open. He's going to open up one of the lockers, and it's just going to be a clothing locker, and it's going to have the restraints here so I can explain to the kids that everything has to be held down, because otherwise we'd have a problem with things floating away. Okay, then he's going to put that back in the locker, and while he's putting it back, I'm going to be talking about the treadmill that's going to be here. Now, as I'm talking about the treadmill, this is the cue for the crew to start floating into view.
The cue for the crew to start floating into view? Doesn't seem like some random teacher to me. So is NASA really worthy of our trust at all? Many people don't think so. Just look at Apollo 1, for instance. Gus Grissom, who was a national hero at the time, probably would have been the first man to walk on the moon. But that was not going to be the case, because he was also an outspoken critic of NASA, and on January 27, 1967, him and his crew boarded the capsule for a full-scale simulation. The communication systems were a problem, and he was heard to admit that he didn't think anybody was going to go to the moon with the problems they were having, and that somebody might die.
No, I didn't read you, Chuck, at all. I can't read you, Chuck. You want to try the phone? How are you going to get the moon? We can't talk between three buildings.
Then, during the simulation, a fire broke out in the capsule, and all 3 astronauts died. Many people were suspicious about the fire and the deaths of the astronauts, especially Grissom's son and wife, who felt NASA had something to do with the accident.
I think it was intentionally sabotaged by someone. It's been a question in my mind, what was found in the accident investigation and how was that handled? Was the CIA involved, or whoever? But it was done intentionally.
Gus gave his life for this program, and I feel like that it is up to NASA to come forward and give us a direct answer to what really happened.
But those astronauts weren't the only ones who lost their lives. Thomas Ronald Barron was a safety inspector of North American aviation during the construction of Apollo 1. He testified to Congress about inept management, poor employee morale, and even said that he had heard from anonymous sources near the accident that the astronauts had smelled fire and even tried to exit 9 minutes before the door to the capsule was finally opened. He submitted a 500-page report as part of his testimony that has since been lost. And 1 week after his testimony, his car, which included himself, his wife, and his stepdaughter, was struck by a train. All 3 died. Investigators have looked into the cause of death, even contacting the doctor who signed the death certificate, who reported not remembering the deceased. Seems like NASA gets away with anything, even rocket flight in a vacuum. Let's take a look here at this man in a boat. If that boat began to tip, the man could just counter that direction and stay afloat. And if he leans too far, the boat would tip over. However, in space, there are no directions and no fluid to counter the weight. There's no way to stop your direction of motion. If you just tilted your boat slightly, you would go into an uncontrollable spin, not head off in that direction. If you used an RCS thruster, as NASA pretends its rockets do, well, you would simply spin in place, or if in an orbit, be taken out of orbit by your new change of direction and speed. NASA actually shows 2 crafts docking together. It simply is not possible. A craft attempting to travel, to say Mars for example, is not an orbital craft anyway. Its trajectory takes place at variable distances, velocities, and with a constant change of direction from the gravity influence of other moving bodies, such as Mars, the Sun, the Earth, the Moon, Mars moons. That would be a 6-body problem. This cannot be solved, as we discussed earlier. NASA nor any scientist can find a solution to a 3-body problem, let alone 6. The gravity forces acting on the spacecraft would vary at every millisecond, and the speed and direction would vary accordingly, so the 3D trajectory and positioning cannot be scientifically or mathematically established. I'm not trying to convince you of anything here. As I always say, don't trust me. If you hate my videos, love NASA, then block me. It's that easy. But I do ask you to do your own research. That's it. That's all I ask. If you think men deserve your trust, if you think your life history shows humans are trustworthy and upright, then you are free to trust and believe whomever you want. But you should really look into it. There is something wrong with the story that we've been sold. Is it universally accepted? Perhaps. Is it a giant bowl of malarkey? You bet. Start with the building blocks of life, atoms, the smallest thing that can make up everything. A piece of paper is said to be 500,000 atoms thick. Then let them tell you how no one has ever seen one. Then let them tell you about the nucleus, the electron, and the neutron that orbit inside the atom. Yes, inside the smallest thing there is. That can't be dissected or cut in half, yet has something inside it. And they know what it is, and they know what it does. So do I. It makes them seem smart and allows them to take your money. So be kind, don't lie, and open up your mind. There's truth inside. Till next time, guys, this has been Jeranism.